तो यार कैसे सब लोग यार आज की इस वीडियो में बात करने हैं फ्लटर मास्टर क्लास। जैसे कि मेरी आपसे बात हुई थी टेलीग्राम ग्रुप में और साथ ही में पोल की बात हुई थी, वीडियो में बताया था कि हम मास्टर क्लास करेंगे। तो ये वही मास्टर क्लास है। इसमें फ्लटर के बेसिक सीखेंगे, साथ साथ बातचीत करेंगे फ्लटर क्यों यूज करना है। ठीक है। और एक साथ में चीज होती है कि वीडियो कॉलिंग ऐप जो आज के दौर में बहुत ज्यादा चलती है, जैसे व्हाट्सएप में वीडियो कॉलिंग ऐप हो गई या फिर गूगल मीट हो गई, तो हम वो कैसे बिल्ड कर सकते हैं, तो वैसे हम बात करेंगे। और जो हमारे साथ आज मतलब जो पढ़ाएंगे या बताएंगे हमें कैसे बनाना है, ठीक है, तो वो आदित्य ठाकुर है, तो हम उनसे बातचीत करेंगे। ठीक है। तो मैं चलो आदित्य को बुला लेता हूँ स्टेज में, तो फिर बातचीत करते हैं आदित्य के साथ, स्टार्ट करते हैं बड़ा सा ये सेशन। सो आदित्य कैसे सबसे पहले।
I'm good, Kunal. Thank you so much for having me today.
सो आदित्य स्टार्ट करते हैं इस चीज से कि एक्चुअली फ्लटर क्या है, तो फिर फटाफट से हम तुम्हारे साथ जुड़ जाएंगे, जो लाइव रिकॉर्डिंग करेंगे हम आज, बनाएंगे कोई ऐप। ठीक है। तो सबसे पहले फ्लटर से स्टार्ट करते हैं।
Okay, I'll start sharing my screen. And do you want me to go in Hindi or should I stay?
मिक्स चलते हैं, हिंदी
चल
इंग्लिश
ठीक
के
है,
साथ।
ठीक है,
जो टर्म्स बहुत स्पेसिफिक होंगे इंग्लिश में ज्यादा समझ आएंगे, वो इंग्लिश में रखेंगे, उन्हें हिंदी में नहीं जाएंगे। नॉर्मल हिंदी में चलते हैं।
ठीक है. I'll share my screen once.
श्योर।
So yeah, I hope my screen is visible. And welcome to this master class in Flutter. So starting with like what we'll be talking about today. So we'll start with what is Flutter की Flutter क्या है, and you know how मतलब उसमें आप कैसे उसके साथ कोड करना स्टार्ट कर सकते हैं. The basics of programming language we'll take that up as well. फिर we'll go into जो basics हैं, जैसे every app in Flutter is built in a certain structure, so we'll talk about that. And then we'll see how to build your own first app using Flutter. So going into that, real quick introduction about me. So I'm a Flutter developer. I've been working with Flutter, like I've been working with it for almost a year. एक साल हो गया मुझे Flutter के साथ काम करते हुए. And I have been a previous speaker at the Flutter Global Summit. I have participated in hackathons, and I also have my own Discord community where we mostly talk about Flutter app development. So if you want to join that, you can always go over to teamaditya.co. So you can go over to this link and become part of the community. So before we start, mobile apps in general, मतलब mobile apps you must have seen, आपने भी देखा होगा कि today like most of the work that you do is done using mobile applications. So if you're watching this video on your phone, you're probably watching it on the YouTube mobile app. If you have previously booked flight tickets, कहीं आपको जाना था and you wanted to book a flight ticket, you would probably have done it using your mobile. If you wanted to make a payment, you would have done using Google Pay application. This was not possible a few years back. I remember कि जब I was small, when we had to go over somewhere, we had to go to the website and go like to a airplane or book my trip website and book the tickets there. And today everything can be done instead on the mobile phone. So mobile development or mobile apps in general are on the rise, and you would know that too because 90% of the time that you spend is generally spent on your mobile phone. And this includes everything like social media apps that you use, YouTube, entertainment and gaming that you do. PUBG Mobile was really popular a few years back, and right now it's replaced by a few other games. There is BGMI too. And other than that, everything from browsing to getting your daily dose of news, you do that using your mobile phone instead of going over to a website. So with that, I can say like mobile apps are the king right now. काफी like demand में है. There are mobile app developers, there are web developers I know who have shifted over time to mobile app development based on the company requirements, also because of the rising use of mobile applications. So if you decide, if you decide you want to build a mobile application, if you are a student or if you are a startup co-founder, you want to build a mobile application that you want to ship for different users out there, you will probably, want to build a Android application. So for that, you will go over to Java or Kotlin, right? And you can publish your application to Play Store. But same way, like if you build a mobile application which works on the Android mobile phone, you will also probably want a mobile application that works on its alternative, like an iOS, or is available on the App Store. So for that, like you had initially learned Android development if you are a student, or if you were a co-founder, you hired some people to work on the mobile app for you. बट नाउ अब प्रॉब्लम ये है कि नाउ आपको iOS स्टोर के लिए भी शिप करना है, तो you'll have this, you'll need a new team of developers to build the mobile application for the iOS Apple store. And for that you will probably need to learn Swift. Similarly, if you are launching a mobile application, you might also need a landing page. तो आपको एक landing page की भी ज़रूरत होगी जहाँ से you can redirect all the people coming to your mobile application, which is could be sort of like a web app, where you enter an email and it saves your email address and can notify you later. So this is like three different things that you're working on. You need a team of Android developers, you need a team of iOS developers, and you also need someone to build your web app for you. And this is what Flutter tries to solve. There were 6 problems and Flutter is just one combined solution for them. Why 6? Because with Flutter you can also in beta develop a Windows app, a Mac OS, a Linux app, and you can do web, iOS, and Android in the stable version, which is like a very big thing. Like you can write आप एक बारी कोड लिखिए and you can run it on 6 different devices. It would work on Windows, Mac OS, Linux, web, iOS, and Android. And you can build these applications for all this different platforms, although the goal is not to build using the same code base. But this is the added advantage here. And why is this an advantage? Is if you are a developer, अगर आप you do development a lot, or if you're a student in college, you'll probably want some projects that you want to be available on different platforms, or you want to be able to make a Windows app, Mac OS, and Linux. As a student, you don't have to learn multiple tech stacks to work with it. You can learn a single tech stack, ship your Android apps, ship your iOS apps, create web applications, and develop for Windows and other different platforms. If you are a developer, this would mean you don't have to write code again and again. You can just write the logic once, change the UI, the only the user interface part, to fit different platforms. Like on a mobile screen, it might be thinner on the edges. So you might want to arrange the different elements in a certain way. And on the desktop, it might take up full space. So you want to arrange your elements in that way. And you would only have to change the UI part, because the underlying code or the business logic of it would remain similar for the different platforms, which is like the added advantage here. And there are other platforms that cross platform applications is not something new. And there is also Facebook's React Native, and this slide is particularly a simplified comparison of Flutter and React Native. And this is something that a lot of people in the Flutter community, the Flutter and React Native comparison is something which is like a heated debate. So there are different opinions, there are different views on why a person would use. For me personally, like a tech stack is only there to simplify things for you, and you should choose it accordingly. Like if you have a website that is made in React, probably if you're building a mobile application, React Native would be the right choice, because you already have experienced developers in React with you. And if you are not working on anything like that, and if you want to have some UI rendering that is better, because Flutter renders these mobile applications natively more as compared to React Native. There's the data processing advantage, synchronization, and also Dart, which is the language in which we write code for Flutter, is very powerful language. React Native uses JavaScript, which is also powerful as well. So you see the two green ticks right here. And then there are certain UI design tool comparison, which React has an advantage in, and open source libraries. Since they both are maintained like open source, so uh, they have like libraries, different libraries available in it. It wouldn't be difficult to find one in Flutter. If you want to do something, you can easily find packages and plugins in Flutter, which is something I'll also take up during this session. So the Flutter system overview. And before I come to it, a real quick look at the Flutter website, because which that is something we'll be coming back to again and again. So Flutter, as I mentioned, is a cross-platform SDK, and what it does is it's a cross-platform. It's by Google. It is defined as a UI toolkit, but it lets you develop for all these different platforms. As in, it is heavily focused on the user interface. It lets you develop beautiful applications that look very good. You have control of every pixel on the screen, and it lets you do that for mobile, web, and embedded devices from a single code base. And what you can do is basically, if you go over to flutter.dev, you'll find all the different features, and you can even try out Flutter in your browser. But the most important features that are there of Flutter is, the first is the fast development. So Flutter has something called a hot reload. So if you're writing code, you can instantly see the changes on a mobile emulator on your mobile device. If there are any changes like in color, you are doing something, you're changing some text, you can instantly hot reload and it will show you the changes on screen. It also has beautiful UIs. It's after all a UI framework. And what it has is basically it lets you have control of every pixel on the screen, so you can actually modify the different views, right? So you can create beautiful UI, and there are a lot of apps out there that really tap into it. There's one called Reflectly, which is an award-winning app built with Flutter. And then there is the native performance. So a lot of people are worried, like if you develop on a cross platform framework, you might not get the same performance as you do with native, and which could be true at to certain extent. But Flutter, what it does is basically it incorporates all the different platform differences, such as scrolling. Like there are different ways that would happen on Android, whereas on iOS. So this is a Android device right here, and this is an iOS device. And there are different things like on iOS, there could be certain way you navigate certain stuff, whereas Android has it different. So it incorporates all these differences, the icons, the different fonts that are there to provide like a full native performance on both iOS and Android. And with that, the latest news would be Flutter 2 release, which also has null safety, which supports null safety. And a common question that I get as a Flutter developer is, what are some of the companies that are using it? So there's Google itself, which has the biggest team of Flutter developers. There's BMW, which recently shipped their BMW Home app, and it also has the biggest team. But the biggest team after Google, like BMW has the biggest team after Google. And then there's Alibaba Group, which uses Flutter, eBay, Square, and other companies. At home in India, we have startups like Front Row using it. There's Zerodha that has been using it, and there are other companies that I know of that use Flutter. So there are a lot of startups in India too that are working with Flutter. There's the Kite app of Zerodha made in Flutter. And you can simply install Flutter. It's free and open source. So if you want to do that, you can just go over to get started, and it will show you like choose your operating system. If you want to do for Windows, you can see the system requirements, and it's simply you can just download this zip file, extract, and add to your path, and it should like give you access to all the different commands. Then you have to run Flutter Doctor, and it should be set up. And you can choose an IDE if you want. You can use the Android Studio. Android Studio is a bit heavy on the CPU. Although if you are a beginner, I would recommend going with Android Studio, because it gives you a lot of options and it's really easy to use. And if you are an experienced developer, as in if you have been working with like the VS Code, so you can just go ahead and install that. You'll be able to run Flutter on VS Code as well. So yeah, with that covered, we'll come back to the presentation right here. So this is like a Flutter system overview, and if you are completely new to Flutter, this might not make sense at the first glance. मतलब like आपको ये समझ में नहीं आएगा the first glance पे. But more and more as you work with it, you'll see something like the framework has Material and Cupertino libraries. Material is for Android and Cupertino is for iOS, and they have like the different widgets in it. So they have also animations, gestures, and everything available. And what it does is basically you write code in the Dart programming language, and you have an engine which is written in C or C++, which does most of the work for you, like the native everything that is done. And then there's an embedder which is more platform specific. So this is like a journal system overview, and it might make sense more as you work with it. So yeah, there is. And as I was saying, like it's not about building for all these different six platforms. You can build multiple Flutter apps with the different user flow but focusing on the same business logic. So with that I mean, like you can have the same underlying business logic, and you can develop mobile applications on it for different platforms, such that it works like it suits your purpose for all these different platforms. So now let's get started with like the basics of it, as in this was more of a theoretical side of Flutter, what it is, and how can you get started with it. So after like your installation and everything is done, what you can do is basically go over to the docs where we already are, and it has like Flutter documentation. Also you can check out their code, as in since it's open source, you can too check out the code and contribute to the different repositories. So there's the Flutter official repository, and you can see like everything is right here, all the code and different stuff that you can also contribute to. And there are issues, pull request. If you run into anything, you can always create an issue or get help from the team itself. So yeah, this is the Flutter documentation homepage, and it has something called a Get Started, which we talked about. And there's the widget catalog, API docs, and cookbooks for you to check out. What we'll do is basically come back to my screen, and let's try to create a new project. So if you work with Android Studio, you can create a new project by just going over to Android Studio and creating a new project. You can also do it using the terminal if like your Flutter command is working. So you can just open up like a command prompt if you're on Windows. So if I'll do a Flutter, it should be Flutter dash dash version, although it would show you all the commands that are available there. So these are all the commands available with Flutter. Because my path is set, so I can do a Flutter version, which should tell me the version that I am currently using. So I'm on 2.5.1. And what I can do is basically type in I can first come to my desktop. I'll use change directory and come to desktop right here. And then I can type in Flutter, create, and a new project name. So let's call it like uh, call it project demo. So Flutter would do some work for me, and it will create this folder, right here, which is the project demo. And so it writes 81 files for you, and it should be created. Now I can just open it with code if you want. Like if you want to use Android Studio, that would work just as good. You can open the project in Android Studio, and I'll open it in code because like a lot of people prefer VS Code. It's lighter on CPU, and since I'm also streaming the screen right now, so I think VS Code would be a better option for me. So if you'll see like the project structure, it has like the Android folder right here, so which has the code for your Android files. Like if you want to ship it to Android, it would have that. There is also the iOS folder which would have all the code for iOS. And there is also a web folder. So if you want to run this on web, that would work as fine as well. So there is also like the different files right here. There is also a readme which is created by default, and it has this text in it. But most of the times what we'll be working with is this folder called lib. Inside this lib folder you'll find a file called main.dart, and this is where all the code for your Flutter application goes. So like all the code that you write will go here. And we have a pubspec.yaml, which is the second file that we mostly work with. So this sort of tells you like everything about your project. It tells you the name of the project, the description, and environment it's currently on. And if you want to use an external package in Flutter, this is where it goes, and I'll show that as well. But let's come back to the main.dart and try to see the default code that is written here. So what I want to do is I want to run this application. So if I click on run, it should by default, launch it on an emulator. Since I have no emulators running, it would probably launch it on Chrome, which is an emulator if you are building a web application in Flutter. So it's waiting for connection with Chrome, and it would launch the application on that. If you want, you can also run an emulator. Like if you are on Mac, you can run an iOS simulator. If you're working with Android, you can run a Android emulator, and you can see how the app looks on that particular screen. I'll just quickly go with the Chrome, and I'll also show you how it looks on Android, a normal mobile device. So this should take some time, and while we do that, let's just quickly go over the default code. So you'll see like there is a top import line which basically says import Flutter material, and this is the same material library that I was talking about a few slides ago. And this material has like the Android widgets in it. So it tells you like this third to five lines are just a main function. For any programming language, there is always a main function that gets the control first, and in this particular main we just say run app and pass in something called my app. So what is this my app? This my app is basically a class. This is a class my app which extends something called the stateless widget. So stateless widget is an abstract class basically which has certain properties in it, and there is a certain way to define it, right? So if you create a normal class, it would not have anything like that. So you can create a normal class, as in let us say new class, right? So this would work fine, but if you make it something like an extend stateless widget, so it requires certain things. As in this was an abstract class, and that is just a way of defining it. So this becomes a stateless widget. Now this my app is a stateless widget which has a build method. So build method basically tells you what to build on screen, and what it does is basically this build method returns a material app, and which has a my homepage as its child. And my homepage, if you go down, you'll see like something called the app bar is there. There is a floating action button, and this is something like which might not come to you when you just see the code, but if you will run the application, you'll see an interface something like this. So we saw like there was an app bar, so this is the blue app bar here. And if you come back to the app bar here itself, you'll see like widgets dot title. It takes in something called a title, and we were passing it to it here, Flutter demo homepage. And here too you would see the same text. So we also noticed like there was a floating action button, and if you click on it, you'll see that the value on the screen increases by 1. So the default app that is written by the Flutter team is only to show you what the code looks like, and it has a lot of things, as in it tells you how to increment a particular number, and center certain widgets, or arrange certain elements. And it doesn't make sense at first for a new beginner, so I'll just get rid of this code. As in I'll try to remove this code from here till homepage, and I'll also remove this code right here because I don't need it immediately. And now if I come back to it, this is more simplified, right? So we are getting a certain error, which is because the home page is not declared, and I'll just get rid of this particular line. All right, I'll remove this title property from here, and now like we have more cleaner code, and there is only this one error which I want you to ignore for now, and I'll come back to it. So this looks like a more cleaner things. Now you have a void main, and you just run a my app which extends a stateless widget. So what is this stateless and stateful? So in Flutter, as I was saying, everything is a widget. Now I want you to imagine these widgets as sort of like Lego blocks. So you have one widget, you put one on top of the other, and like that you keep going, and you have a complete widget tree, and by the end of it you have a complete mobile application. And in Flutter, these can be thought of as like Lego blocks, which you keep one on top of the other. More importantly, there are two types of widget. One is the stateless widget, and one is the stateful widget. Now, as the words might suggest, in this widget, it says stateless. That means the state isn't there, and this means stateful. But what is this state, right, that we are talking about? So let us say there was a widget called which was brown in color initially, and you placed another widget on top of it. Like this was the second widget. Now, if I were to change the color from brown to red, or some other color like brown to purple or something, so I cannot do that because that particular widget was built in a certain configuration, and I would want to get rid of that widget, create a new one instead with the new color change. So these are sort of like can be understood as stateless widget. They don't have that state. In simple terms, is what the mobile application looks like at that particular instance. So if at this instance it was brown in color, I cannot change it to be become purple immediately by clicking a button. I would have to rebuild the widget and modify the state as I want it to be. Whereas stateful widgets have sort of like a life cycle. So they can start at this, like they can start as purple or some color, and they can end as brown or red color. So I can change the life cycle. All throughout their life cycle, I can change the different properties of it. I can set state to change the color of this particular widget. Now, if you ask me like where to use stateless or stateful widgets, I would say like mostly use stateless widgets. And if there is something like you want to modify by the end of it, or stateless widgets are better because they aren't rebuilt every time. So you'll only build them when you really need them, and that is something good for a mobile application to help you optimize that. Whereas you can use stateful widgets if there is something that you want to change. And in the default example too, like if you'll come back to this particular default example, you'll notice inside this code there was a function called set state. So what we were doing is like when the counter was increasing, we were modifying this count by changing, rebuilding this widget. So it was setting state, it was initially 7. When I'll click on it, it will change set state to make it 8. So this is what a stateful widget is. So here you can see like the my homepage is a stateful widget, whereas this my app was a stateless widget. So we'll get rid of this stateful widget, and we'll come back again, go back to the cleaner code that I was showing you. I'll get rid of this title till here, and yeah, now it's again small, but we are getting this error. So what I can do is come down and type in state, and this comes from an extension that I have installed in this VS Code, and it will say give you two options, like you can create a stateful widget or you can create a stateless widget. So I'll create a stateless widget because I have no plans of changing its state immediately. And if I do that, the error should possibly go away, and I just need to add a const modifier here. And yeah, that looks cool. If I'll save this now, what happens is an hot restart. So this should as I did the changes in code, it should update whatever I was seeing on my emulator, and you'll see like everything is gone because I got rid of the buttons and the different widgets. I just see a banner here, which is a debug banner, which comes from this material app here. And there is also a way to remove that. You can just type in debug show checked by mode manner to false. And if I'll just again do a save, it should go away. So that is it. Like this is now the code is cleaned up, and now we can talk more about what we'll be building today. So I was thinking for a simple project we could build a mobile application which basically lets you video call. So we'll be doing this using a service called Agora. And to do that, what I'll do is basically after I've cleaned my code, I just need to create two different constructors. But first, let's go over to their website. So Agora is a real-time voice and video engagement platform. They let you easily integrate like video calling and everything inside your applications. And they are used by a number of startups. So if you have used AirMeet in the past, you wouldn't like it's built on Agora, so that lets you basically do video calling with your friends. But what we want to see through this is basically how to use some of the basic widgets in Flutter, and then also see how to use like external packages that would help us increase functionality inside our mobile applications. So let's try to do that. What I want to do is basically go over to the console. So if you're new to Agora, you will have to create a new account. But since I already have an account, I'll just log into my account and it should take me uh, to my account. And what we can do is, before getting started, we need to create a new project. Let's go over to project management from the side panel here, and I can create a new project. Call this project demo. You can call it anything. I was using it for project. I named my Flutter application too. So yeah, and you can start it in a secure mode, or you can just testing mode. I'll have to select the use case. So let's go with education, and it should create my project. This is the project, and I'll have a app ID for this, and then I need to generate certain app tokens for it. So let's go over. All right. So what we need to do is, first, before we come back to it, we'll have to we'll need this app ID from here, and we'll need a token for this particular project. But if you want to integrate Agora inside your Flutter application, we need a package, and we'll need to get that first. So while we are right here in the code, we have we have got rid of all the default code that was here. So inside my homepage, like what I can do is, right now it returns something called a container. And while working with Flutter, there are certain widgets that we again and again use. There is one called the scaffold. There are column rows which are layout widgets, and you can also find about them on the website itself. So we'll come back to the Flutter documentation, go over to the widgets catalog. Right here you will see like there are different widgets available for you to use, and these widgets, as I mentioned, are just Lego blocks that you put one on top of the other. So what I want to do is, I want to use certain widgets, and you can check them out here. Like there are the different layout widgets, so which has like how your certain other widgets are positioned on your mobile application. And there are other widgets like which let you, you know, add padding or create the empty box. Then there is this one widget called, which takes in multiple children, which is the column, and there is the row widget, right? And we have others like the app bar, there's the Cupertino silver navigation bar and such stuff. But what I want to do is, instead of returning a container which gives us this empty screen, I want to return something called a scaffold widget. I can type in scaffold, and I know from experience like scaffold takes in an app bar, so I can type in app bar. And this is something that mostly comes like once you start writing code, but you can also read about it in the documentation, so you'll know what to use. And scaffold does most of the heavy lifting for us. So there is the app bar on top, and there are other widgets that you can put in. There is a body, there is a floating action button, and it places it on the screen, like it positions them accordingly. Like the app bar always goes on top. There's the floating action button at the bottom of the screen, like we had seen, to increment the counter. And I can just type in app bar, I can type in title, and title should take in a widget. So I can give it a text widget, which is used to display text. And let us see, Agora, Flutter app, right? And I'm getting this error because it's a constant, and I can add that keyword. So if I'll save this now, what I should get is an app bar on top of the screen with the text that I have passed into it. So yeah, this is it. This is the Agora Flutter app being shown on the screen. And I'll come back to my code. What I want to do is, inside my scaffold, there is also another property that I can pass in, which is the body, which would make the body or the core screen of our mobile application. And this body should take in something called a stack. And stack is another widget that lets us place the different elements on screen. And stack has like multiple children. So as I was showing you the column, which basically arranges them horizontally, the stack widget, what it does, it lets you stack one widget on top of the other, so it creates a stack layout widget. And by default, all the widgets that you do not position are aligned to the top left corners. So if you do not position a particular widget, it will just go over to the top left corner. And what I want to do is, I want to create two widgets inside it. One is the render remote video, and then there would be another widget which would basically be aligned, and it would have like a local preview. So in a video calling application, you would have something called a remote view, that is the person you're talking to, and then there would be something more of a local view, which would show basically your own image on it, and it should come on the top corner. Like the frame where you are seeing yourself should be something on the top of the screen, and the other person that is there on the video call with you should take up like the most of the screen, like it's there in normal mobile application. So I'll do that. I'll have a center widget which would basically have a child, and it would be called render remote preview. And then there would be another children, which would be a container, let's say a container. And inside this container, I'll give it certain width, let's say 100, a certain height, which would also be 100. And then I just want to give it a child, which would be a widget called render local view, right? Preview. And you'll see like we are getting this error because these two widgets are not defined right now. So you can define them like this is my widget build method, which ends right here. So I can define these two widgets outside. Let me just call it like widget, and I'll just copy the name of this and inside this I can just return an empty container for now. And similarly, I can define another widget. So now the error should go away, and these are just empty preview widgets, right? And I can simply like I can do this. I can do something called all right. I can use this little bulb-like icon that you see here. Uh, and I can wrap with the new widget, and this time I want to wrap it with a widget called align, and this should take in something called an alignment, which would be alignment dot top left. Right, cool. I can also add like this could be replaced with the sized box, so I can. If I save this file right now, you wouldn't see much changes on the screen because there isn't much to show. It's just returning like empty screens. And if you like want to follow this up, like there is also a file. This is the video Flutter one-on-one video call in Flutter, which has like most of the code in it. So if you want to follow this, you can just copy and try to do this with your Flutter application. And it would be simple as in just you can copy the code from here, so you don't have to write it most of it yourself. So it will have like if the remote id is not this, you can paste it here. And we don't have something like a remote id defined right now, so we are getting that error. But remote id could be created like a late int. So I can just put this one particular line inside here, get rid of the const keyword. And get rid of the const keyword because that was causing some errors. And now we'll have like a at the base of that particular mobile application that we're talking about. So if I come back to this one-on-one again too, we wanted a Agora IO account to get started with it, and then we need to create a new project, and we need to get something called an app ID and app token. So if I'll go back over to my project management, and we can use app id of a project. Like I'll just copy it for now. Please do create your own, as in you don't have to use my app ids, you can just create your new ones. And come back to this particular thing right here, so I can just paste my app id first. Let me just paste the app id somewhere here, and I can do create like two variables. One would be app id equals to, and paste it inside there. And I can create another const token equals to. and I need to get a token too. So if you go over to like this is you can go over to the token and type in a channel name, like we can call it a channel name, and you can generate a temporary token. Copy this and paste it here. So this is a big file, big token. Let me cut them out and take them to the top of my file, make them global. Save the file, and yeah, so this is done. We don't want to launch it, so I can just quit it. Terminating process. And if I'll come back again to this, what we need to do is basically add two packages. Now, when working with Flutter, like most of the code that you would otherwise need to write down yourself can be made available through packages, and you can reuse these packages inside your own projects. And it's very simple to use it. You just need to add like the package name and the corresponding version to it. So if you want to use a certain package, you can go to a website called pub.dev, and here you can search for your package name. Like if it's Agora, then you can search for the Agora RTC engine. And there is also a package called Agora UI Toolkit, which is a simple plugin to create like the video calling or live streaming app with just a few lines of code. So it will let you build all of this. Like you'll need a Agora developer account, a Flutter repository, and has all the steps, the different device permissions that you would otherwise need. You can simply add them, and usage is also mentioned there. Like it would have Agora video viewer, the buttons, and this is something like that makes it really easy. So you need to just initialize the Agora engine, and once that is done, you'll have to just just create that would do like most of the video calling part for it. So if you want to follow this, you will like create a Flutter project, and what you'll have to do is in your Flutter application add the Agora UI toolkit as a dependency inside your pubspec.yaml. So you can just copy it from right here, go back to your code and go back to this explorer section, readme.md pubspec.yaml, paste it under the dependency that you have, save. Need to do a flutter pub get. So it says like in your Android level build gradle, add this at the end of the repositories. If you'll come back inside your Android folder, you'll have a build gradle right here, and you can add it to it. So this is which repositories right here, and you can just add it to it. And it says like you will also need to like requires the camera and microphones to start video call. So you'll have to go over to the Android manifest and add the required permissions to the file. So you can copy the permissions folder. It has to be a direct child of the manifest tag, so you can add the permissions here. And it says like the Agora SDK requires Bluetooth permission, just in case like if someone is using the Bluetooth to talk. So we'll need the permissions for that. And if you're working with iOS, you'll have to also add the privacy, microphone, and all that permissions for it. So this is a simple UI code that is written here, and you can just copy it. Come back to your home page, and you can get rid of the code that was inside here. You don't need to like Okay, first of all, like it since it uses like this init state, it has to be a stateful widget. Instead of writing it inside a stateless widget, I can get rid of this home page and create a stateful widget and call this my home page. And we need to give it these two methods, and it should also have the init state. I can come back right here, paste it inside here, and we're getting this problem, but we can just quickly fix it by importing the library. So this is the import that we need to add, which is from the package that we have previously added. And with that done, we just need to modify the build method. So the build should return a material app, which would have these two. All right. So this looks better now. I can just refactor some of this code. So I can just do a format document and it will be more clearly visible. It's showing me some lines and I can just do a quick fix. All right. So it also has this space where you can add your app ID and also a channel name. So channel name and the app ID which we had originally kept a copy right here, and you can just replace it with. So to connect my mobile device, I'll have to unplug one of the things. Let me just do that to my mouse, and I can just connect my mobile device. Let's try running this application, see if it works. And what I want to do is to show you like how it looks on my mobile device. I can run something called an a power mirror. This mirrors my mobile device for it to be visible on my desktop, and I'll just wait for it to start. All right, let's go over to the terminal once. Let's see what is the connected device right now. So you can see like right here it says AC201, which is my mobile device, and it's trying to build this mobile application to run it. So it would run the Gradle task, and we'll see like the mobile application running on my mobile device. Let's see how it looks and how it works, and if it does so by the end of this session we'll have something to showcase for it, as in we'll know how to use Agora's UI toolkit to build a mobile calling application. And I also have the code right here, but this is more of a previous method of doing things, as in we used to create the two different widgets and we would have something like this by the end of it. So this will be the complete app, but this is Agora UI toolkit is something new, and it like makes it easier, I guess, because you just have to pass in your app ID and it would do most of the work for you. So this looks better, and this is something I wanted to check out real quick. And yeah, with that, like this would conclude the video calling part of it. And if you haven't like worked with Agora, you can always check out their documentation. They have a lot of other stuff available. They have extensions marketplace which you can integrate to build your own mobile or gaming applications. But with Flutter, like if you want to get better at creating mobile applications, what you can do is work on different projects. So let me also take that up while the project builds, because this might take some time, because this is an expensive process on CPU too. So while that builds, I'll quickly take up what are some of the projects that you can do as a you know complete new beginner to Flutter. So we were somewhere in the PPT. We're taking it to code, and yeah, Go from page. All right. So when you're just first starting with Flutter, a lot of people tend to take up UI clones in Flutter because since Flutter is a UI toolkit, you can build some of the interesting UIs that you see in your mobile application. Like this is one of them is a Netflix UI. Then there is this Spotify Green Room UI, and you can check out other designs from websites like Dribble, Behance, and try to build those app UI interfaces using Flutter. And it is a good exercise when you're just starting with it. You'll know how to arrange all these different elements. You'll know how what are some of the other widgets that are available to us, which we can just reuse in our projects. Other than that, if you come to a certain level, you can always build a music player which would tell you about how to work with local files that are available on device, and it would also teach you a lot about audio integration. And once you're done with that, you can work with APIs, and this is like a demanded skill, as in if you want to get an internship, you need to know somewhere how to make HTTP calls, network requests, and such stuff inside your mobile applications. For that, you can build a news app, try to work how to get some data and get the latest news, and use tags like you see on the screen right here to filter the different news. And after you're done with like the HTTP stuff, you can learn about some of the databases. There are options available like Firebase, which is by Google itself, really simple to integrate. There's Supabase app, right? Both open source alternatives, and then there's a custom backend that you can build for your mobile application, or you can use SQL Lite, which is more local. And if you're working with database, you need to learn all these stuff like authentication, data, how to create, read, update the crude operations, and then storage, how you can store files like images and other such stuff, and other features like remote config analytics that are available with Flutter. So then after that, like once you are familiar with HTTP requests, you know how to create your models, you know how to get data, take this data to the different databases, so you can work with state management. So mostly you wouldn't like there are a lot of applications you can build even without a state management. You can just pass the data, but state management is like it simplifies your life. It helps you get data across screen. And there are a lot of options available out there. There's Provider, Riverpod, Block, Getex, and so many more. And state management continues to be a hot topic in the Flutter community, as in a lot of people are worried what state management to use, what to learn, what is the easiest. And most developers say like try out what works for you, and if it like if you get familiar with one, or you there could be certain use cases where you want to use one or where you can use the other one. So that varies based on projects, and you'll have to identify that gradually. And once you're done with state management, you can build an e-commerce application. So it will help you use the state management to do the cart side of things, as in if you want to add it to cart, you can use state management for that. You'll also learn about payment integration. So if you want to become a freelancer later on as a Flutter developer, payment integration would help you to know how to build a client side application. And you can always create a game to learn about animations and physics and such motion in Flutter. And yeah, so there are a lot of internships available, and if you have any questions about how to get one, you can always join our Discord. So that is on teamaditya.co, and it would have like the simple link to join us on Discord. And you can also get a free Flutter resource book for yourself. But let's come back to a project, see how far has it made it. Okay, so we're getting something, but the project hasn't started to run. So this might take some time to build, but most certainly, like let's see. All right, so this should take some time to build. If there are any questions, though, I can take them up till then. I guess like this would be done.
आई थिंक ये फर्स्ट ब्लेंडर होता है ना, जब जो फर्स्ट टाइम बिल्ड होती है तब आई थोड़ा टाइम लेता ही लेता है, उसके बाद जब
Uh,
सेकंड टाइम थर्ड टाइम करते हैं इंस्टॉल हो
hmm,
जाता
the
है.
the first build is like really expensive on CPU too. Like you have to wait for it to build. I initially ran it on Chrome, so for that time it was faster.
हम्म.
But yeah, anyway, it will run if there are any questions that I can take them up. I'll just wait for it to run.
एक क्वेश्चन आया था आई थिंक.
Hmm. Yeah, give me a minute. I'll just check it
श्योर
out
श्योर
now.
श्योर.
Okay, is Flutter is safe? So I think it's about more a question about like should you be using it in client side applications like or big projects or not. So I would say like there are a lot of companies out there that actually build on Flutter. There's the Kite mobile application by Zerodha that handles like all these different requests on a daily basis, and it's yeah, so it doesn't matter like as such like so if you want to build a mobile application on that scale you can always build it. Flutter speed on website compared to React, Flutter as compared is not as good for website development. I too had built my own website in Flutter. It took a lot of time to load up. Flutter web although unstable can use a lot of improvements on that particular point. But if you want to build mobile applications or if you want to build iOS applications, it's really good. If you want to build web applications, it's comparatively easier, as in if you were to build a web application, so like you can use React is really good. But if you ask me, you have to use React Native to build for Android or iOS, I would recommend Flutter instead, because a lot of companies like Coinbase use React Native, but there are also companies like Reflectorly and like Zerodha itself. They had used React Native initially, but the Android build was not so good, so they had moved from React Native to Flutter. Yeah.
और एक चीज डिपेंड करता है कि अगर हम मतलब जो स्पीड होती है ना वो डिपेंड करती है कोड कंस्ट्रक्टिंग कैसे करते हैं हम लोग,
Hmm.
कैसे कैसे कीवर्ड्स यूज कर रहे हैं, और साथ ही में मेमोरी लीकेज की बहुत ज्यादा प्रॉब्लम होती है जब हम एप्स बिल्ड करते हैं. कुछ लोग मेमोरी लीकेज को इस्तेमाल नहीं करते, विजेट को डिस्पोज करना अच्छे से कि जब तुम्हारी ऐप
Yeah.
यूज हो चुके हो विजेट, तो उस पर डिपेंड करता है. और वो स्पीड्स भी डिपेंड करते हैं, मैटर्स करते हैं. छोटे छोटे परफॉर्मेंसेस होते हैं जो मायने रखते हैं बड़ी ऐप के लिए,
Hmm.
छोटी ऐप में शायद वो नजर ना आए.
Like optimization goes a long way. As in, if you really optimize the code, so you can always get better results out of it. This will take me some time. I think with the video going, my video is also lagging right now. But if you have anything, like, you can always reach out to me on LinkedIn, and we can, I think, conclude it here.
आई थिंक आदित्य ने काफी कुछ कवर कर दिया है मोस्टली। वो फर्स्ट टाइम बिल्ड
Yeah.
के कारण टाइम लग रहा है, तो वो भी अगर दिक्कत हो तो वो आप मिल सकते हो आदित्य। आदित्य ने टीम, आदित्य जो बताया डिस्कॉर्ड चैनल, उसमें आप ज्वाइन करके या पर्सनल रीच आउट कर सकते हो, लिंक्डइन पे भी आदित्य ने बता दिया है। ठीक है, तो अगर
Yeah,
कोई भी
sure.
डाउट हो आदित्य से रीच आउट करना। यस आदित्य, प्लीज।
So that is about it. If you have any questions regarding Flutter, you can always reach out to any one of us on Discord, or you can always DM me on LinkedIn itself.
ठीक है आदित्य, करते हैं इसका एंड, आई
Yeah,
होप।
thank you so much for having me, Kunal.
थैंक यू यार आने के लिए, बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। आई होप सबको फ्लटर आ गया होगा। यार बहुत मेन है, इस समय फ्लटर हॉट है मार्केट में, तो थोड़ा सीख लेना। आदित्य ने बेसिक्स कवर की है स्टार्टिंग से, लेआउट वगैरह में कैसे कैसे यूज करने, थोड़ा स्टार्टिंग से देख लेना, समझ आ जाएगा। फिर ढेरों ट्यूटोरियल्स हैं आदित्य के चैनल पे पड़े हैं, आप उन्हें भी देख सकते हो। कुछ पैकेजेस कैसे डिप्लॉय करते हैं, कैसे बिल्ड करते हैं, और साथ में ये वाला तो काम आने ही आना है, क्योंकि बड़ी चीज मेन रहती है। ठीक है, तो इससे चलते हैं, विदा लेते हैं। थैंक यू आदित्य फॉर कमिंग। ओके, तो तब तक के लिए
Thank
सबको बाय बाय, टाटा।